As me, as a kid, I was about 11 or 12 years old. At the time when these images were taken, I was going to school every day. I had, on the surface, a normal life. But since I was a young child, I was being raped by my father. But it got a lot worse as I got older. My father is a Freemason. I was taken to a lot of rituals in central London, in the Grand Lodge, or sometimes more locally in the local area where I lived, which was in Richmond, Teddington.
What was the main way in which the Freemasons abused children, and you specifically?
The main way was rape, but the worst ways were using your hand to kill another being.
What was that abuse? Just so that we can then understand what you're acting out here as children.
I saw a little boy being murdered by the Freemasonic group, and in this particular ritual, which is in the Grand Lodge in London, I've talked about it in other videos, there were many little boys. I saw how there was rape in different rooms of the Freemasonic building, where the little boys and me were taken into rooms and raped by these men, and this boy, he was lying on the altar, and then they made each little boy in turn come up and stab him with a knife in the heart to kill him.
Why do you think they did that?
To have power over you so that you won't speak out.
So in this footage that we're going to see, there is footage that includes your father, who was the man who took you to these Freemasonic lodges and participated in rituals in which you were abused together with other children. What is your intention with this video? And what is your intention in showing your father in this video?
I hope this video can help people identify children that are being abused in order to help those children find support and help. It's especially important to see the ways in which children play. By playing, they often show what's happening to them, actually. Children who've faced extreme violence, they are masters at hiding what's been done to them because their life depends on it.
In this reenactment, you're playing the role of the murderer, which is a role that you were forced into as a child with other children, it sounds like.
Yes.
So at some of these rituals, you were forced by this Freemasonic group to commit acts of violence on other children in order to traumatise you.
As a child or as a normal human being, you feel immense feelings of guilt and disgust and horror, because you feel responsible, you feel like you have committed this murder, and it's the worst feeling in the world to be carrying around. And it's impossible for you as a child to realise that you were not the murderer, that it was the group, that it was the people who forced you into that position. So you see me, the murderer, going into the house and into a cupboard. I mean, I'm wearing a long black robe, black gloves, my face is covered. This was exactly the sort of attire that the Freemasons would wear in their rituals.
So in this opening scene of the reenactment with your friend, you are dressed as the Freemasons were dressed in the rituals.
Yes.
So in a sense, you're both showing how it was that they appeared. You're processing the trauma by assuming the role of the aggressor in order to understand and process what it was that happened to you.
Yes. I go into the cupboard. The cupboard, again, is a really important part in the house, because in this cupboard there were loads of shoes in different bags. In the shoes he was keeping a lot of drugs, which again were administered to me in the ceremonies to further increase my confusion and disorientation.
So he hid the drugs that he was using to sedate you before you were taken to rituals in which you were abused and raped and tortured. He was hiding those drugs in the shoes, in the shoe cupboard. Do you know what type of drugs he was using?
One's to sedate or one's to make you alert. I go into a bag and I open it, and inside is a document, and on it is written the testament. I think the word the testament is very apt, because I feel this is a testament to what happened. This is an account of the truth, the testament to me as a child. This is showing a detective who's looking into the computer. I was, again, never actually normally allowed access to the computer. My father had a lot of pornographic films on the computer, images of child abuse.
So this outline of the body on the floor and the blood on top of it, you said you understand this now as your means of processing as a child what was happening in these rituals.
Yes.
So you've described how a little boy was murdered through the forced participation of other children in that murder, coerced by the Freemasons.
Yes.
At the Grand Lodge in London.
Yes.
Not some small local lodge, but the Grand Lodge.
The Grand
This isn't
Lodge.
some tiny splinter group of the Freemasons.
No, and this Grand Lodge is connected to the establishment, the government.
Prince Philip, for example, is an extremely high-ranking Freemason. Prince Philip, of course, husband to the Queen, father to Prince Andrew, we now know a man who rapes trafficked children. Prince Philip was also best friends with Jimmy Savile. As we've described in a previous video, Prince Philip was patron of the camp where I was ritually abused, called Outward Bound. That camp, Outward Bound, and the group Outward Bound was under the directorship of Jimmy Savile. You can look this up on Company's House. Jimmy Savile was the director of a group of camps. When you have a secret society running a police force headed by Prince Philip, who we now know was associated closely with Jimmy Savile, ran a network of camps called Outward Bound at which children were raped and abused. Prince Charles, very close friends with Jimmy Savile, was marriage counsellor to Charles and Diana, had intimate access to all of the royal family's properties, among other properties. We also know Prince Philip's other son, Prince Andrew, rapes sex-trafficked children, supplied by Jeffrey Epstein. This is all public information now. When you have a police force, in which 2/3 of those in the police force are members of the Freemasons, headed by these people, this so-called royal family, it's not very surprising that when a child or an adult reports the abuse of children, that the members into the criminals.